Hello and welcome to CodeSlicing. In this episode, we're going to be recreating the opening animation from the Shazam application. Yes, it's rather wonderful, and we're going to be using SwiftUI and overcoming one of the current limitations of the framework in the process. Now, I think it is a limitation. I'm almost 100% sure that that is the case, but if there is a way of doing this natively, then please let me know, and well, I'm sure you will let me know, but don't hold back, sock it to me. But we're going to proceed on the assumption that it is a limitation of the current framework and work around it anyway, so how about that? But now that that caveat has been released into the wild, let's get into the code. Right, here we are. Nothing complicated going on, although I will say this. I am going to be using magic numbers up the wazoo. Normally, I would wrap everything in a geometry reader and make sure it was size agnostic. I'm not going to do that today because I don't want to take focus away from the main event, which is the animation itself and how we're going to achieve that. Now, when it comes to this animation, you've probably guessed that we're going to be animating the trim on a shape. And the reason I felt this was ripe for a tutorial was because it's not as simple as you might think. So let's set up the basics and we'll get on to what the actual problem is. The first thing I want to do is set up a view that is going to contain our circle and the links, the sort of chain links that are going to go on top of that, the things we're going to be animating. So let's put a view here called circle and links. Everything in this is going to be in a Z stack, and we'll just start with a circle. Now we can refer to it in our main view, which is also going to be in a Z stack, and we'll just put that there and give it a frame of 200. And then we can resume. And then we'll go back to the circle, and we'll give that a linear gradient. And we're going to put this color in there. To start with, it's going to go to another color of 0.35, a subtle difference. And we're going to send that to the bottom. And we're going to give that a shadow color of gray with a radius of 0.2 and a Y offset of minus 1.5. That gives that little highlight at the top. And then I'm going to put in a capsule. I'll put a stroke on this of white with a style of line width 20 and a line cap of round. Then I'll give it a very specific frame of 90 by 64. This is when we arrive at the problem because we want to trim this thing. And let me show you what happens. We're going to say from trim, which is a CG float, is equal to 0, and to trim is equal to 1. And then we say from trim to trim, and everything should look exactly the same. Now let's change it to 0.5, and let's see what we get. We're starting to see the problem here, because when we animate our shape, we want it to animate from the center of the bottom, as in we want that to be the starting point. Unfortunately, there's no way to change the offset of the trim. And this is what I was talking about in the intro. I'm pretty sure this is a limitation. If I've missed something, then please berate me in the comments. However, we're going to proceed assuming this is a limitation. Now, when it comes to a circle, you can fake it because you can rotate a circle and change the point at which the trim starts. Unfortunately, for every other shape, we can't do that because the only shape that has that kind of rotational symmetry we can exploit is a circle. So what we have to do is to find our own capsule that does have a path that starts at the bottom center. Fortunately, defining this shape couldn't be simpler, thanks to PureSwiftUI's innumerable extensions that make this process very simple. So let's create our shape down here. Shazam capsule. We'll refer to it up here, and we're going to set that to 1 so we can actually see it, and then resume. So let's bring it up into the middle of the screen. Right. So we don't have to make this the most flexible capsule in the world. We only have to account for what we've got right now. And we know we're going to have a capsule that is wider than it is tall. So from that, we know that the radius of the capsule's arc is going to be arc radius is going to be the half height. And we can use that to define the rest of the capsule. We're going to say, move to where? The bottom. That's where we want it to start. So we want an arc now that has a radius of the arc radius, but the center is going to be the trailing edge of the rectangle offset by minus the arc radius. Very simply like this. Rect trailing x offset minus the arc radius. We give it the arc radius as the radius. The start angle is the bottom. The delta is minus 180 degrees. So we're halfway there. And now we just need another arc, which is very simply path, arc. We take the leading edge and we add the arc radius to that. The radius is the arc radius. The start angle is the top. And delta is, again, minus 180 degrees. Now all we have to do is close the subpath, all right? So now we've got our capsule where the definition of it starts at the bottom middle. So now if I do 0.5, we'll see that it's perfect. That is exactly what we want. I'm going to extract that Shazam capsule into its own view because it's going to get a little bit more complicated and it's nice to wrap these things up in a view when you can. So let's create that down here. We'll call it link. And it's going to have the from trim, which is a CG float, and the to trim. And it's also going to have a color for the stroke. So we grab this lot, we stick it here, and we replace that with color. And here, instead of the Shazam capsule, we put this link here. We put the from trim, the to trim, and in this case, it was white. So now we're back to where we started and we can resume. Now the whole story of this animation is going to be told with a black link and a white link. And as long as we can match up the animations of those trims, then it's going to look great. We can worry about positioning this once we've sorted out this animation. So the from and to points for this trim is actually going to be the following. It's 0.43 and 1. Okay, this is the shape that both the black link and the white link take on, but the black link goes from this and the white link goes to this. And the trick is getting the animations to match up in such a way that the black link hands off to the white link. So before we continue, let's set our view up so we can animate something. So up here, we'll say animating false. And in on appear, we'll say with animation linear with the duration of 2. We'll make it quite long so we can see what's going on. And then we say animating is true. All right, let's resume. And then I'm going to add a black link here. Black. And I'm going to give that a Y offset of 50 and give the white one a Y offset of minus 50. So we can really see what they're doing at the time, because this is going to take a little bit of lateral thinking. Remember, the white link ends in this position and the black link starts in this position. And to achieve that, we need to set up our animating ternaries correctly. And we're going to do it in part 2. So join me for that. It's going to be brilliant. If you like how it's going so far, then hit that like button to let me know. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you don't want to miss the sensational conclusion to this, consider doing that, which will reduce the possibility of the unfortunate scenario of you missing it playing out. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them below. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me. See you next time.